And then I guess when the film is playing, maybe we can turn those lights up. Sounds good. Hello, hi. Hi, thank you very much for coming early for this. Have any of you been to an Arms and Sleepers show before here? Yes? Some people haven't?
Yes.
Yes, okay, that's okay. There's no punishment for that. Does everybody understand English?
Yes.
Yes? Like comfortable?
Yes.
Okay, if somebody doesn't, don't be shy, just tell me, we can have things translated. So Dasha here can translate into Russian if anybody has trouble understanding. I'll speak a little bit slower, but basically this is a short documentary film that I made with two German directors. And it's basically about my life growing up in Bosnia. So I was born in Bosnia in 1983. I'm 36. And we left when the war started. My mom is a piano teacher. So my mom started teaching me piano when I was little. And so this film is kind of about my dealing with my past and the war through music. So obviously, my father was killed in the war, so obviously I have a lot of scars, a lot of things to process. And so this film was a little bit of my way of processing these difficult memories for myself. So that's what the film is. It's about 11 minutes long. I'm the one speaking in it, so it's in English. But I think we have the Russian subtitles from YouTube, so they're going to be a little weird, but maybe they will help a little bit. But if at the end of the film you didn't understand some things, just ask and we'll try to translate some things. And then we can have a little discussion about that and just doing music for a living in general, or if you have any questions, and if not, you can just go and drink and that's it. But yeah, so that's the film. It was just released last month. It was made in 2018. It's called To Tell a Ghost. And I think that's all the info about it. Any initial questions or things to clarify? Cool. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Mirza, just for those that don't know or haven't been here before. So Arms and Sleepers has been around for 14 years. That's my main project. But the music in this film is my solo project, which is all solo piano music, which is also here on the merch table if you want to check that out later. But yeah, so it's a different project that made the music. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for being here again. I appreciate it. Yeah, if you go this way, we'll try to make this a very nice experience. If we can do it.
About 6 years ago, I was a student attending a graduate school class in Boston, Massachusetts. This particular lesson was about the peace negotiation process in former Yugoslavia in the 90s. I remember sitting in class, drinking my coffee, like everyone else, and suddenly freezing on the inside. This burning emptiness, like the craziness and horror of war, were now being stripped down to a clinical history lesson filled with statistics. My family and I directly experienced this war, and now we were in a school textbook a few thousand miles away. It was all very surreal, and I just felt numb. I was born in Mostar, a city in Bosnia and Herzegovina, formerly part of Yugoslavia. My entire family was deeply rooted in Mostar. my grandparents were born here. My father had his own dentist office behind our house, and my mother worked as a piano teacher at the local music school. We had a stable, normal life in a safe and supportive community. So naturally, this was a place where I thought I would spend the rest of my life. At the heart of our city is the Old Bridge, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It had been spanning the Dnipro River for 427 years, attracting tourists and symbolizing unity. When it was destroyed in 1993, it felt like the soul of the city was destroyed as well. Around the same time that the Old Bridge fell in 1993, my father was killed. By this time, my mother and I had escaped the war and were living in Tunisia, in northern Africa. We received the news of my father's death a few months after the fact, as communication in and out of Mostar was difficult during the siege. With my mother losing her husband, me losing my father, and both of us losing our city, we kept traveling further and further away, through Czech Republic, Arizona, and finally settling down in Massachusetts. Today, whenever I am in Mostar, I feel very mechanical. Let's do the things I need to do, and let's get out of here. For me, the city's full of ghosts. It's a place stuck in time. Life carries on here, of course, and Mostar has its own new identity today, but I will never have the mental capacity to be a part of it again. I have had so many dreams at night of what things used to be like that I've mentally exhausted myself. So much so that opening the door to our house at Mostar now feels almost quite familiar. For that reason, it's a little bit less shocking in a way. I have a few years of childhood memories. A little moment I remember is when my dad wanted to surprise my mom by buying her a piece of jewelry and asked me to distract her while he went to get it. Another vivid memory I have is hearing Hotel California by the Eagles on a record player for the first time. This was my parents' favorite song. Our house was destroyed during the war. The roof has since been renovated, but the house just stands here, empty. It used to be full of life. I remember being happy and laughing a lot in this house. My parents would have these dinner parties for friends and family. There was always so much laughter and joy. There was a spirit of friendship, of camaraderie, and it just felt like a very supportive environment. I have an extremely positive memory of my father. I remember him as if he was some kind of a model human being, which is annoying because he probably wasn't, and I didn't get to find out for myself. I'm sure that some of the faults I have come from him, but I'll never know. At the house, his old dental equipment is just sitting there, rotting, but it's one of the few things that were his that I can still see and touch. My mother started teaching me piano at our house when I was a little kid. I hated it, of course. But as we kept moving to new countries and new continents as refugees, the piano became the one constant in our lives. In a way, the piano kept us temporarily distracted from all the chaos. I've traveled the world as a performer, but I've never performed in Mostar. Coming up with the idea to play some of my piano pieces in the very place where I experienced both joy and terror seemed absurd at first, but then started making more sense. I wanted to directly confront my past on my own terms, and even if I felt sad, depressed, and exhausted, I wanted to feel something instead of feeling numb. I started a new life somewhere else, somewhere far away. Most people see me as a privileged white American male. I'm making music for a living, traveling freely, and by all accounts, living pretty comfortably. And this is all true, but it's incomplete. I'm also Bosnian. I am Muslim by birth. I'm a fatherless refugee, and I'm an immigrant. None of this I chose. In that class 6 years ago, I felt like I had lost the right to tell my story, like there was some sort of an expiration date on lingering trauma that had passed for me. Even though my classmates were discussing the place where I grew up, I just couldn't take part. It wasn't a place for reflection and healing, and in that moment, I felt empty. Deciding to do this has allowed me, in a small way, to mentally process my journey, which started in Mostar. Approaching my past through music has at least helped me feel something, and maybe in that I'll find some healing. I guess I'll have to wait and see.
Thank you very much for watching. Yes, that's it. So I guess I was going to talk a little bit about just doing music for a living, and obviously you see some of my history or where that started. But if anyone has any questions or comments about the film, it's so stupid. Can we? That's a very stupid looking picture. If anyone has any questions or comments, feel free. Does anyone have any reflections or anything to ask, or needs any translation or help understanding any part of it? That's okay if you don't.
How many times do you visit your hometown?
I go back about every 2 years. I try not to go too often because it's not so pleasant. In the city that I'm from, it's very divided still between the Catholics and the Muslims. So there's a river in the middle. One side is mostly Bosniaks or Muslims, and the other side is Croats, Catholics. So they don't really mix. I don't have any friends on the Croatian side, for example. So yeah, it's a little strange. Like there's this still kind of hidden war going on. So nothing has been really resolved. There's no killing and shooting, obviously, but half the city is also destroyed, like the buildings are destroyed, so it just looks really sad and depressing, and you know, it doesn't feel like that there's a happy future. So a lot of young people are leaving, so there's no energy in the city. The old town is still touristy because it's a very famous old bridge that was built by the Ottoman Empire. So they rebuilt the bridge using the same stones and the same designs from Istanbul. But of course, it's not the same bridge. But it was rebuilt in 2000 something. I'm sorry? Yes. Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I think Turkey donated a lot of money to rebuild the bridge. So yeah, there's tourism. People are coming, but outside of the old town, there's not a lot of opportunities for young people. There's not a lot of things happening. A lot of buildings are destroyed. So yeah, when I go, it's just to visit some family and friends, and that's about it. But yeah, every 2 years, to answer your question. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
How to translate the name of the film to tell us correctly? It's,
Yeah.
The host is the town, or the host is you, or who?
The ghost, in this instance for me, is the city and my dad. So my dad is buried in what used to be a park where I used to play as a kid. It's not something that I talk about in the movie, but because there were so many dead bodies, they were running out of graveyards, so they started burying people in parks, mostly men, because they were the ones fighting. So my dad is buried in this place that I used to play in as a kid. So it's just it has a feeling of like ghosts, like me as a little kid, him now dead, and then the city, of course, how I remember it, which is very different how it is now. So it's like stuck in time, as I say in the film. So it's really just like me talking to all these different ghosts. Yeah.
Thank you.
It was your idea to create this film, or?
Yes, it was my idea to create the film. Basically, I originally just wanted to go to our old house and play piano. So I wrote this album, my solo piano album, and a lot of that is obviously influenced and comes from this. So I thought I would go and maybe shoot like a music video of me playing piano in our house, because I thought it was a weird thing to go to your old destroyed house and play piano. So where I play piano in the house is actually in the exact same room where my mom started teaching me piano. And then I thought, well, okay, if I'm gonna do this, why not maybe do more? And most of it was for myself. It was kind of a selfish thing. Like, just doing this has helped me a little bit to like get all this thing and weird energy out. So yeah, it was my idea to do it, and then I wrote the script and had this idea to do more of like a documentary style thing. At first it was a little bit more political, but then I decided to not do that because I wanted people just to see the human story, not whose side is who's guilty, who's not. And then I invited these two German directors who are friends of mine through Arms and Sleepers to come help me shoot it.
It's a great idea to make it political.
Yes, I mean, that part of it is important as well. And when I showed the film at the Sarajevo Film Festival in Bosnia this summer, a lot of people in the audience, especially German people, didn't like that there wasn't more mention of who did what. Because for them, you know, it's very important to say, this is what happened in World War II, we did this, and let's not do it again. And so they thought, okay, why don't you do the same here? It is important to say who did what. You know, my father was killed by Croats, and my house was destroyed by Serbs. That's just a fact. I don't hate all Serbs and Croats, but the government did that, the military did that. But I wanted people to just be able to connect to the human story, because no matter who you are, which country you're from, what religion you are, everyone has, not everyone, but a lot of people have a similar story. And I think just maybe, hopefully giving other people idea to talk, because I think it's important just to tell your story in any medium.
Can you please remind to your first time when you visited first time Dnipro in Ukraine?
2014, when all the bullshit was happening here.
Was before that happens here in Ukraine?
I was here just as it was happening. I was here a few weeks after the Malaysia Airlines plane was shot down.
So I can say that we some kind of understand what happens in your
Yeah, of course.
in your film.
Of course. There's also a reason that I'm showing it in Ukraine and not in other places. I'm not showing this in Russia, for example. Not that people that listen to my music would have a problem with it, but I think the reason why I've kept coming to Ukraine often is because there is some kind of a connection there. You know, a bigger power that's next to you, that's, you know, making things difficult, and there's tragedy, and so you know, I do connect on a certain level, and so I think it makes sense to show it, especially here. But yes, I was here in 2014 when it was happening, and it was strange. Yeah, as it was for you, of course, more so than me. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes.
I have not a question, but a comment.
Sure.
It's really interesting and dramatic story, which gives like a basic understanding of what kind of person you are, including music. I think your music is really diverse and beautiful. I like it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's very, very nice of you. Yeah, the music here is very different from what I do in Arms and Sleepers. Yeah, I was taught classical piano by my mom, so that's where my musical journey started. So that was the best way for me to express it, was through the piano, because it's been very important in my life. So, but thank you very much for your nice words.
And how many years ago did you form the group, the band?
Arms and Sleepers, 2006.
And
I'm old.
why exactly that name?
Arms stands for weapons, not arms.
Not ours.
Yeah, not arms. So yeah, I mean, I just had this kind of little idea that, you know,
So the name is connected with the war.
it is, yeah. So that, you know, when I was leaving with my mom from Mostar, we left on a UN bus, and the snipers all stopped to let the women and children out. The men couldn't leave. So I just remember, you know, just thinking like, all these people with guns, and everybody in the world doesn't care. And this is happening today, of course, and happens everywhere, in Syria and other places. But yeah, it just seems like it would be so easy to prevent it, and it would have been so easy for America to send a few planes to bomb Serb military, and the war would have been over in like a day, which it was later over in a day because of that. So I just remember thinking like, why is nobody helping us? Everybody's sleeping on what's happening. So that's kind of where it comes from. Yes?
Is there any local electronic music scene in your hometown?
In my hometown, no. No, it's turbo folk and covers, rock and roll. Yeah, do you guys have turbo folk here? No? Well, like,
Turbo chanson.
I don't know what that is. Well, we have a lot of folklore in the Balkans, and then there's like a sort of techno version of it. It's really, really horrible. But yeah, there's no electronic music at all. A little bit in Sarajevo, in the capital, but not in my city. My city is about 120,000 people, so it's pretty small.
I've also noticed some beautiful hills like around the
Yes.
city. I'm interested. Are there any like places of power, like the river itself or the hills for you that are like spiritual?
I'm not a very spiritual person. I'm atheist. I'm not spiritual.
Not
I'm
like
sort of
natural.
Yeah. I'm also not really that much into nature either. I think the things that are important to me are people, like my people that are close to me, my family, and you know, the places I remember as a kid. You know, my house. So usually those are the places I go visit when I go back. Places where I've lived there, my father's grave, etc. Yeah, it's a very beautiful region. It's very close to Croatia, to the Adriatic Sea, so hills are beautiful. It's really hot in the summer. It's about 45 Celsius in August, so when we were shooting this film, it was really hot. Yeah, no, I save all my spiritual stuff for music. Yeah. Anyone else?
Sharing your story. It was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for watching it. I appreciate it. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so does anyone need any translation if anybody didn't understand something? No, you guys are okay. So I guess I will just say a few words about, you know, what I've been doing, you know, with music and my career. So this is how it started. My mom was a piano teacher, started teaching me piano in this house. And then as we kept moving, you know, I kept practicing piano. So we were poor, and we were all, you know, we were refugees, and we lived in a lot of weird places. Weird, I mean like weird parts of cities, like the ghettos, basically. So we lived in Tunisia, in Egypt, and my mom is white, and she was a single woman. She was harassed on the street all the time by men. So, you know, me growing up was just very like, I guess it was traumatic. First the war, and then traveling as refugees. So finally, when we came to the US, we started this new life, and I stopped playing piano, but then started, you know, discovering grunge and rock and roll and electronic music, and started playing in bands. And eventually Arms and Sleepers was formed in 2006. Me and another person from the US, and started making all this music. And then about six, seven years ago, I started doing this full time. I still do this full time, Arms and Sleepers, and it's difficult, of course. I'm on tour a lot, like I am right now. I usually tour about 6-7 months per year. So I don't really have a sense of home. And I think that comes from my roots. I mean, we used to move every year. We were in a different place, from Africa to Europe to US. So I've never had like you know, for me, home is a very weird thing. I don't really feel at home anywhere. Last night on the overnight train from Odessa to here, I felt very at home. That felt great. So, you know, places like, you know, just a little thing like that, being on a train by myself in Ukraine is, for me, is as much home as anywhere else. So yeah, so doing music, it's basically on the road a lot, which for me is nice because I'm okay with that. And you know, I'm making music all the time. I have the solo project, so I'm busy with that. And I run 2 record labels. And some of you might remember the DXFXWXU. Was anybody remember that from last time? Yeah. A little online magazine that I run with a friend of mine. And so, yeah, I try to keep busy with all kinds of artistic projects as much as possible. Some pay me money, some don't. Yeah, it's often, I often don't want to do it. I feel like, you know, I have a degree in political science, so I got a master's in international relations because I thought I would work in the UN or something like this. And then I started just doing music full time. I think my heart is in music. I think it's the way for me to really, you know, process and express all this weird stuff. Some people do drugs, that's okay. Some people have a lot of sex. Some people drink a lot. Some people travel, read books, whatever. For me, it's music. So yeah, I feel like it's something that I didn't really, as cheesy as it sounds, I didn't really choose it. It's just like, it keeps choosing me and I keep doing it, even if it's so difficult and exhausting. I mean, on tour, 6-7 months per year, I'm sleeping about 3-4 hours per night. Tonight there's a train at 4:30 to Kiev, another show tomorrow in Kiev, and then Khmelnytsky and Lviv and Riga, and then 6 shows in Russia. So it's like a constant boom, 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 boom. And so, and I'm by myself. So you get a lot of alone time, you get very tired, and sometimes you lose your mind a little bit. As much as sometimes I want to do something different, I just can't, because it's just really part of me. So, but yeah, if people have any questions or would like me to talk about anything to do with the business side of doing music, or creative side, or anything else, I'm happy to answer and talk. So feel free
You'll
to.
be interested to listen about creative side of making music. What programs do you?
Sure. Well, I was making music today, actually, in my accommodations before coming for sound check. So I feel like I'm always making music. So for me, it's very important to have a very simple setup, just a MIDI keyboard and a laptop and headphones, and that's enough. I don't need crazy gear.
Maybe some programming in your laptop.
Yeah, so I use Reason. Yep, I use Reason and then record in Logic, but a lot of our stuff is mixed by someone else in Ableton. But I don't use Ableton. So everything is composed in Reason. Or ideally, if I have a real piano, then that's my preferred. I'm sorry?
This is very old.
Very old, but very beautiful.
Why?
Well, we're old. This started in 2006. In 2006, Reason wasn't old, and that's what we were using. And yeah, it's just something we're familiar with and we're stuck with it, and the music we've made so far sounds fine to us, and so we just keep doing it. But it is now mixed in Ableton by someone else, so there is a little bit of a switch to that. But yeah.
No analog hardware whatsoever?
Not whatsoever. I mean, we've released about 30, we have about 30 releases as Arms and Sleepers, so a lot of the earlier stuff was real acoustic instruments that were recorded, like acoustic guitar, glockenspiel, things like that. A lot of, you know, real synthesizers. As of late, it's mostly samples and mostly digital stuff, yes. Is it? Yeah, it is. Except for the piano stuff that's usually acoustic piano. So, but yes, it's hard. I mean, all that gear is also really expensive, and you know, I see other artists posting pictures of their gear all the time, and it looks nice, but also there's something socially weird to me about that. Like when people show off all their gear, because like it's a limit. Not everybody can afford that. You know, if you're a kid in Ukraine, you can't afford a $4,000 guitar like someone in the US. And so like when like US artists or like Western artists post like all these pictures of like all this expensive gear, like sure, it's cool, and I get that there's something interesting about that, but I'm a little bit more sensitive to that, because I know when I was younger and I didn't have anything, that's not what I wanted to see, you know? So, you know what I mean? And so for me, I don't really care about what I use. For me, the most important thing is to compose music. And if you give me anything, a broken piano, broken guitar, I can make something from it. And that to me is the interesting part, is just working with whatever you have. Of course, sometimes there's some beautiful, expensive instruments that make beautiful sound and you want to use it, but you know, I can't afford it. A lot of people can't afford it, so I don't use it. Yeah.
You planned your tours or you wait for invitation?
I'm sorry?
You planned your tours or you wait for invitation?
Both. I mean, I try to do everything myself. Booking, managing, performing, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes there's invitations, I say yes or no. Usually I say yes, I'll go anywhere. But I also have been doing this for such a long time that I know so many people that organize concerts that it's usually an easy communication.
As I understand, you are an immigrant in America, and there is a lot of concurrents there. And how did you start with this? Did you write to some labels, or how?
When I first started with Arms and Sleepers? Yeah, it was hundreds and hundreds of emails and MySpace messages back in the day when MySpace was cool. But yeah, I mean, it started by two of us making music in our bedroom, in our shitty little bedroom, with shitty gear and shitty computers, but with, I think, some good ideas. And so we just made whatever we could, and then we contacted everybody that we could. And eventually 1 out of 500 people responded. And it's sort of, from there, it was 14 years of building it to whatever this is now. But yeah, it started by one person in Germany replying, who's a booking agent, and he said, I like your stuff, I'm starting a label, do you want to release something with us? And then maybe we can organize a tour. Then we started touring in Europe. And first we lost a lot of money for several years. It was really hard, wanted to quit all the time, but I just kept going back. I just kept going, and then the audiences grew and grew. And yeah, I think most artists quit because it's really hard, and it is really hard. And I've quit before too, but I'll come back. But there's moments where you feel really shitty about yourself. Either people don't like what you're doing, or you're losing money, you're tired, you're eating shitty food. So yeah, it was just persistence, really. It was just like always fighting to keep going, no matter what.
So next is question.
Yes.
How much views have the best video on YouTube?
Oh,
How much views?
I have no idea. I have no idea. Sorry.
No.
No. I don't.
You don't have video at YouTube?
No, we have lots of videos on YouTube. I just don't know how many views they have. I don't really look for that. Hopefully a lot.
In terms of distribution, what is the main source of income? The vinyl and CD stuff?
No.
Or digital?
No. The vinyl is so expensive. No, I mean, like this latest album, which was released, which is a double vinyl release, we made 600 copies and it's like 5,000 euro. So, you know, we need to sell some stuff to make money back. So that's expensive. Eventually, if you sell a lot of copies, you make a lot of money, but it's hard to just sell 600 records like that, you know? So I would say digital streaming is the biggest source of income, Spotify. I probably wouldn't be here without Spotify. So yeah, digital stream, I don't know, is Spotify, do you guys use Spotify here?
We don't have Spotify here in Ukraine, but we use Spotify.
I use it, yes. I understand, yes. Yeah, I mean, Spotify is huge in the US, and they pay really shitty. They pay $0.005 cents per stream, which is really bad.
For how much games?
Yeah, so like, for example, you need 10,000 streams to get $20.
10,000?
Yeah, $20. So if you have millions, it's great. So, but yeah, we have so many songs, and we've been doing this for a long time, so, you know, it adds up. But yeah, I think streaming and touring. Yeah, touring and streaming. The physical stuff, I mean, this was such a pain in the ass to bring with me. You know, like I brought everything on Turkish Airlines to Odessa from the US, and it's a very heavy bag, and it's a lot of effort, and my back hurts. So yeah, it's a lot of, you know, I prefer not to bring this because, you know, but you know, that's my job, so I have to do it. But yeah, I would say the physical vinyl CD stuff is difficult to get money from unless you sell thousands.
I know here is some young composers and artists. Maybe you can give them pro tips from...
Pro tips? Oh man,
Maybe
I love
you can.
I got 0 pro tips. They're all amateur tips. Yeah, I mean, I guess as simple as it sounds, I mean, if you love what you're doing and if it's really something that touches you, then you keep doing it, no matter what.
Even on cheap stuff.
Even on what, sorry?
Cheap.
On anything.
On it.
I say on anything, yeah. I mean, for me, that's really true. I could write a song with one note. I mean, maybe it wouldn't be very good, but I would do it. But not to say that I'm like super talented, but I will find a way, however I can. But I think if you are inspired by sound, however it comes from expensive or cheap gear, then you just keep doing it. You can always be creative with anything you have in front of you. Of course, there's limits. It's more difficult for a Ukrainian artist to come to America to tour than it is for me to come here and tour, of course. So I'm aware of that. But I think there's always a way to try to make something of a career with what you're doing. Would I actually recommend to someone to do music for a living? Probably not. I think you need to be really like kind of a little crazy, and you need to sacrifice a lot. I mean, I've sacrificed friendships, relationships, family time. I've sacrificed really, you know, a lot. So it's not for everybody. You know, being alone on Ukrainian trains is not for everybody. I love my chai, but not everybody loves their chai on the train. So yeah, I don't know. I think just as a kind of a general, you have to sort of really be confident and go for it. And no girlfriends, no family stuff, no Christmas. You're just out and you go. It's kind of like that's the sort of American part of me. Like Americans are very like, let's do it no matter what. And sometimes it's like too much, of course, because it's like you don't live your life, you just work all the time. And I work all the time. I mean, today I arrived to Dnipro at 9 and I worked for 5-6 hours. So I didn't rest, I didn't check out the city. I mean, I've seen the city before, this is my 4th time here, but you know, it's not that you get to live this extravagant life of getting drunk and seeing museums and stuff. You're working, even when you're on tour. So if you're okay with that, that's what it takes, I think, to do something with it. Does that make sense? Yes?
How do you manage your time so that you are on the tour most of the time, but at the same time you are making new music?
Yeah, well, I was making new music today before the show because I have a deadline. But yeah, it's a difficult balance for sure. It's hard to make music on tour because you're really tired all the time. For me, I like to make music in the summer. Usually I don't perform as much in the summer, so I will usually leave a month or two in the summer when it's hot outside, stay inside and just work on music. So I kind of divide it into like periods of time. So 2 months only make music and then 2 months only tour, something like this.
Is that deadline with the freelance or is it like?
I have I'm writing a song for some label that asked to release a song. So it's like a modern classical ambient thing. So it's due next week. So, yeah. Anyone else? I don't know if this is helpful or not, what I'm talking about, but.
No, it's really motivating, but I'm not musician,
Mhm.
but for me, like, for my,
Imagination?
yes, it's like very motivating,
Mm.
because it's so, you seem to us like a hero.
You seem to what, sorry?
Like a hero that is going all alone through Ukrainian streets. Like,
Definitely not. It's pretty easy, as you guys know. Ukrainian trains are great. I wish we had trains in the US like this. It's only cars there. Yeah, I don't think it's that hard. I just think you have to do it. And a lot of people don't do
Shia
it.
LaBeouf just do it.
Yeah, you just gotta pick up that heavy fucking bag of vinyl and you gotta go. You know? And that's it. But I think for a lot of people, they don't do it because it is hard. And that's okay. Maybe they want to do something else, and that's totally understandable. Anyone else? Yes?
Do you face any troubles or problems when you come to Ukraine? Like, do you see any changes happening here?
Troubles in Ukraine? No. No troubles in Ukraine. Troubles in Romania all the time, but not in Ukraine. We've had a lot of issues in Romania. Like, we were chased by undercover police once. We almost fell off of a mountain once. I don't know. Romania is like really crazy country to me. I don't know why Romania. Well, they had Ceausescu, that's why. But
And what's your favorite country to visit for gigs?
Ukraine, of course.
Oh.
Are you saying?
That's just a joke. No, Ukraine is one of my favorite places to visit. That's why I keep coming almost every year. I would say, like, if I gave you top 5 countries, it would be Latvia, Ukraine, Poland.
What about back home? Do you have like
Oh, in the US?
favorite cities?
I don't really like touring in the US, but I like Seattle a lot. Is a really cool city for music, for live music. Seattle, Austin, Texas, and Montreal in Canada.
And what's your plans for the next year or maybe next?
I'm on
years?
tour
Do you have
most
any-
of this year, and we have 6 music releases that are coming out this year. So we just released a new album. There's a new EP coming out in early April. New single next week. 4 more releases after that. Another album with a different third project with vocals. More of my solo music, and then 7 months of touring this
I
year.
have a funny story for you. Last time when you came, one
In 2008,
member of-
18.
Yeah, a member of your team gave the CD for me, and I brought the CD to my grandfather, who lives in a village. So can you imagine? He got this DVD player, and there is only 2 CDs with the music. So my grandfather officially listening Arms and Slippers.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Must be very strange for him. That's really funny. Well, thank you for sharing it.
What is the second disc?
Second?
Yes, he has 2
Second
discs.
is something like chanson music.
So Arms and Slippers and Chanson.
It's a perfect mix. It's a perfect mix, yeah. It's a perfect. Well, thank you for sharing our music with your grandfather. That's really sweet.
Why don't you like tour in the US?
Why don't I?
Like tour in the US?
It's really difficult. The US is really hard to tour for smaller artists. So like in Europe, when I tour in continental Europe, you usually get okay fee, food, accommodations, everyone's nice. In the US, it's like, it's just, you're like trash because there's so many shows every night. You're just another band. So there's no accommodations, no food. The promoters don't care about you. And the audiences are tough because they hear music all the time, and so you are kind of nothing special to them.
Basically, as I
It's
hear
cold.
from people who live there, almost everyone having something like band or something like that at the backyard of their house. So
Yeah,
it's
there's a
very,
lot of
very
live music.
difficult,
Yeah, it's a lot of live music. So.
But actually, you're here. You're touring for many years now. So bravo.
Oh yeah, I have no problem being here. I prefer to be here. Yeah, that and also long distances. It's a really huge country, so like every day is like 8 hours of driving, and there's no trains. Like here, for me, overnight trains are great because I can sleep on the train and wake up in the next city. In the US, I would have to drive, so I'd have to wake up early and drive 8 hours to the next show. So it's really tiring in the US, yeah.
Even the Europe festivals, they are much more like waiting to attend in terms of.
Yeah, Europe in general, not the UK, but Europe, besides the UK, is definitely great for this type of music and for any level artist. You can always find an audience and people that are supportive. Anyone else?
Anyone else?
Yes?
What kind of genres do you make besides piano music?
Besides piano, well, Arms Sleepers is not piano music, so that's like electronic, instrumental, hip hop stuff. And then I have a new project, which is gonna be more like a synthy project with both, not synthy. There's synths. It's like kind of like Caribou with female vocals, or something like this. So that. Do I do anything else? I used to play in a grunge band. That was cool. I played drums, but yeah, then that stopped. Have I played anything else? I'm not good enough musician to do like jazz or things that you properly have to play an instrument. Yeah, so that's it.
Well, I'm obviously always curious about some personal experiences. What's the funniest situation you got here?
In Ukraine?
Yeah.
There's no funny situation. It's all serious. Funny situations in what happened the other
with Ukrainians.
something happened just the other day. Something. Odessa's a weird place. Has everyone been to Odessa?
Yes.
Is Odessa weird?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Because it's like a weird mix of like people from Arab countries and Turkey and Russians, and it's just like a weird, and there's like a lot of Mercedes, and it's not my place. But funny experience in Ukraine. There was this guy once that we toured with who I wanted to kill. And so we were driving from Kiev to Khmelnytsky, and then we stopped in the middle of nowhere, and I was talking to the promoter if I could really kill him and if I would get arrested. I decided not to kill him, but he was a real jerk. He's from Kiev. Yeah, no, I don't know, I can't really remember. A lot of funny experiences in Romania, like near-death funny experiences. Yeah, not in Ukraine. I mean, driving in Ukraine is just fucking insane, just like in Romania. So we've driven with our van many times through like, Uzhgorod and to Lviv, and those roads are just insane. So a lot of avoiding potholes and paying money to cops to not give us a ticket and things like that. But that's normal, that's okay.
Maybe someone already gave the question, but what's your opinion about the most popular topic in the world now, about the virus and stuff?
Is that the most popular topic?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm
I don't know,
really
it wasn't for me, but I don't know, I'm washing my hands. I don't have a
Do you eat
mask.
garlic? Do you eat onion?
No, I'm not doing that. There were a lot of
Well,
people.
they're right, you have to do it.
On the flight from New York to Istanbul, there was a lot of people wearing masks. Some people were definitely paranoid. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think for people my age who are relatively healthy, there's other things that could kill you faster than that. I think for older people, of course, it's a
So
serious
you
thing.
don't see any panicking groups of people?
Oh, I saw panic. There was definitely a lot of panic in New York at JFK at the airport, yeah, because there was a flight leaving to South Korea. So a lot of people were, actually there were people that like didn't get on the flight. So there was a lot of yelling and yeah, everybody wore masks.
Well, cool that you came.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for coming again. Any other thing? If anybody wants to ask any questions privately, I'll be around, so feel free. I'm always happy to
about
talk.
personal life, about
Yeah, all kinds of personal life stories. Yep. Yeah.
Childhood in the US.
I'm sorry?
How to study childhood in US. How
What?
you start in US with fun.
With what?
What was your childhood?
Childhood in the
situation?
U.S.?
Yeah, back home.
Oh, really shitty, horrible. I went to the U.S. when I was 13, so we lived in Prague, Czech Republic, for 2 years, and I really wanted to stay. I spoke fluent Czech, had all my friends there. This is 1994, 5, 6. So I was 11, 12, 13 years old, and I didn't want to leave, but my mom couldn't find legal work, so she had to work on the black market. And it was getting more and more difficult because there was a lot of refugees in the mid-90s in Czech Republic. So the only option to get like legal paperwork was to go to a place like the US. And everybody else, like the UK, Australia, Canada, closed their borders to refugees. So the US is the only place that took us, which I'm forever grateful, because now traveling with a US passport is the easiest thing ever. So as much as I have a lot of problems with the US, it was the only country that took us in. In a place like Czech Republic, you can't get citizenship until like 10, 15 years of living there. In the US, we got it in 4 years. So when you're a refugee and you come from a place like Bosnia where the passport doesn't mean anything,
But do you feel
the first thing you want is citizenship.
Do you feel yourself like a resident, like proper resident of states at the moment? Do you feel like
I have a US passport. I also have a Bosnian passport. I don't really feel, I respect the laws of any country that I'm in, and that's about it. I have no loyalty to the US any more than I do to Ukraine.
But I guess it's huge knowledge, I mean, in industry of music, in industry like social type of life there. Basically, what we do here, what some of European countries do, they just follow the lead of
Big mistake.
state
Yeah.
artists.
Yeah.
So basically, you're just there and you can bring something, some knowledge to us, which is great as well.
Yeah, I guess hopefully that would be the idea to do that. I don't know how helpful it is, but yeah, the US has a lot of money, so they can do whatever, they can export their culture and their artists as much as, more than anyone else,
I don't know
which is a shame.
why, but somehow information comes here later than
Yep.
anywhere. I
Same.
don't know how
Same
come.
everywhere, yep.
Now we have Google, now we have everything, but still we are kind of
Yeah, because cultural trends come late,
Yeah.
a lot of them start not start in the US, but the ones that people want to follow are in the US. I don't know why. Whatever, but
I'm talking not about direct following, I'm talking about something has roots there which came from there to here.
yep.
So that's why we watch them and we try to follow and create something new. But it's great that you can be somehow how you call this word, like someone in between. Someone
Yeah,
who can bring something from there and something who can adapt your music and
Yeah, I think if someone that's born in America comes to a place like Ukraine or let's say Dnipro, it's a much more of a cultural shock for them than it is for me. Where I come from, we have the same kinds of buildings as here, and same type of cars and whatever. But for someone born in America coming here, it's going to be like communism, Cold War, Soviet, blah 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 blah. So I think it would be more difficult for them to feel comfortable and to open up. And for me, it is easier, but that's just because I wasn't born there.
it's great.
Yeah. Yes.
How are you able to sleep for 4 hours a day and not like?
That's a very good question.
Not like falling because of tiredness.
Yeah, I drink Red Bull. But I drink a lot of coffee and Red Bull, unfortunately.
It's about it.
Yeah, but sleep is super important. I love sleep. It's hard to do it on tour. But I'd say sleep. When I sleep well, I feel great, and when I don't feel great. So, but I slept pretty well last night. I slept about 7 hours on the train, so I'm feeling good today. So yeah, feel free to come and say hello or ask any other questions. I think there's going to be a show, and that's it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Thank you. You need help with that?